Modern theorist presentation of Abraham Maslow, American psychologist. Abraham Harold Maslow was born April 1st, 1908, in Brooklyn, New York. He was the first of 7 children born to his parents, who were uneducated Jewish immigrants from Russia. His parents, hoping for the best for their children, pushed them hard academically. He was married in 1928 to Bertha, and they had 2 children together. In June of 1970, he died from a heart attack. For education for Abraham, he first studied law at the City College of New York, and then after 3 semesters he transferred to Cornell, not being interested in actual law. Abraham and his wife moved to Wisconsin so he could attend the University of Wisconsin. He then became interested in psychology, and his work began to improve dramatically. He spent time there with Harry Hollow, who is famous for his experiments with baby monkeys and attachment behavior. He received his bachelor's in 1930, his master's in 1931, and his PhD in 1934, all in psychology from the University of Wisconsin. After his graduation, he returned back to New York, where he became interested in human sexuality. He began teaching full-time at Brooklyn College. In 1951, he became head of the psychology department at Brandeis University, where he remained until 1969. Abraham Maslow wasn't satisfied with the way things have always been done. He was a psychologist, but he didn't like how other psychologists viewed people. In the first half of the 20th century, most psychologists believed one of 2 things about humans. Behaviorists believed that people's behaviors were purely determined by reward and punishment. On the other hand, psychoanalysts believed that people were slave to their urges. They believed that subconscious desires drove our behaviors and feelings. Maslow didn't believe these views of humans. He believed that humans had great potential. He thought that there had to be more to humans than simple rewards, punishments, and subconscious urges. To Maslow, people were full of potential. He developed the humanistic psychology, which focuses on the potential of people to become all that they can be. Other psychologists helped develop different elements of humanistic psychology, but Maslow is largely considered to be the father of the humanist movement in psychology. His primary contributions to humanism include his hierarchy of needs and his work to make humanism a recognized psychological model. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is here in the graph to the right. This is his greatest contribution to the humanist movement, which has said the basic physical needs must be met first before people can realize their full potential. In the basic needs is psychological needs such as food, water, warmth, rest, safety needs, and security. Then the psychological needs of belongingness and love, esteem needs, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment, and then the top and self-actualization of achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. The hierarchy of needs model can be divided into deficiency needs and growth needs. The first 4 levels are often referred to as deficiency needs, and the top level is known as the growth or being needs. Deficiency needs arise due to deprivation and are said to motivate people when they are unmet. Also, the motivation to fulfill such needs will become stronger the longer the duration they are denied. For example, the longer a person goes without food, the more hungry they will become. The last level is a little bit different. Maslow has used a variety of terms to this level. He's called it the growth motivation, the B needs, or self-actualization. Maslow initially stated that individuals must satisfy lower level deficits needs before progressing on to meet higher level growth needs. However, he later clarified the satisfaction of the needs is not an all or none phenomenon, admitting that earlier statements he may have given the false impression that a need must be satisfied 100% before the next need emerges. Maslow believed that every person is capable of having the desire to move up in the hierarchy towards a level of self-actualization. Unfortunately, progress is often disrupted by a failure to meet lower level needs. Life experiences, including divorce, job loss, may cause an individual to fluctuate between levels of hierarchy. Characteristics of self-actualized people. Although we are all theoretically capable of self-actualization, most people will not do so, and only to a limited degree. Maslow estimated that only 2% of people would reach the state of self-actualization. Below are 15 things that are characteristics of self-actuated people. They're highly creative, they have an unusual sense of humor, they accept themselves and others for what they are, They're spontaneous in thought and action. They have a need for privacy. They have strong moral and ethical standards. Maslow also believed that behavior leading to self-actualization is experiencing life like a child with full absorption and concentration, trying new things instead of sticking to safe paths, listening to your own feelings and evaluating experiences instead of the voice of tradition, avoiding pretenses and being honest, taking responsibility and working hard. These are all behaviors I feel as an adult that we try to work towards, and the self-actualization is something that we also try to work towards. However, establishing those lower level fundamental needs as far as belonging and safety needs come first and foremost to protect our families and also to make other people happy. Aside from developing the hierarchy of needs, Abraham Maslow was also co-founded the Journal of Humanistic Psychology. He also co-founded the Journal of Transparent Psychology in 1969. By starting two influential journals in the field, Maslow ensured his mark on humanistic psychology would outlast even if the influence of his hierarchy of needs. Beyond the hierarchy of needs, the lesson of humanistic psychology have been particularly picked up by positive psychology movements. Both movements focus on humanity beyond mental illness and beyond treating symptoms. Positive psychology does not necessarily focus on increased well-being solely for the sake of eliminating anxiety, but instead focusing on increased well-being for the sake of improving people's lives and improving society. Criticisms for Maslow's theory. He looked at biographies and writings of 18 people he identified as self-actualized people. From these sources, he developed a list of qualities that seemed characteristic for this specific group of people. First, you could argue that his biographical analysis as a method is extremely subjective. Personal opinion is always prone to bias. He also focused on predominantly limiting his skew to highly educated white males such as Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Einstein, and Beethoven. Applications of Maslow's hierarchy theory to the work of classroom teachers are obvious. Before a student's cognitive needs can be met, they must first fulfill their basic psychological needs. For example, if a student comes in tired and hungry, they will find it difficult to focus on learning. Students also need to feel emotionally and physically safe to feel accepted within the classroom to reach their full potential. Personal implications of Maslow's theory in my future classroom. First off, just being observant and listening to students' needs and making sure that they are in a learning mindset before teaching. Giving respect to each student and in turn expecting that same respect back. And also providing positive criticisms and working with each student to strengthen their individual needs and work on their weaknesses. As far as references go, the references here are below. And then this has just been a presentation of modern theorist Abraham Maslow. Thank you for joining me.